This is Mom, Memo, and Great Memo Hall. To my 7 children, and to my 15 grandchildren, and to my great-grandchildren, they're so precious. I love you very much.
Years ago, by request, Mom wrote a sketch of her life. In 2011, at 88 years old, she recorded that sketch. In her own words, the following are a few excerpts from that story.
I was born Nellie Maud Smith in a little place called Mounds, Oklahoma. I was born August the 14th, 1922, and was the 5th child in the John Wesley Smith family. In 1925, my dad decided he wanted to go to Detroit to find work. I was 3 at the time. Our first house was on Ryopel Street, and then we moved to 17171 DeQuinder. It was just off a 6-mile road and was a big white house with a tall hedge around the front yard. When I was about 8 years old and my daddy got laid off, Mom sent me to the store to get sugar with her last dollar. I went to the store, I got the sugar, and returned the change to Mom. But the change turned out to be over $19. She rushed back to the store to tell the man I had given him only $1, but he told her that he had given her the right change and wouldn't take the money back. Mommy said the Lord knew their needs and supplied it. She was the only Christian in the family at the time. I never dated any boy until I turned 18. Then one day in July 1941, Mom asked me to go with her to a revival being held in Big Beaver, Michigan. That was the night I met your dad, Everett Lee Hall. I'll never forget the way he looked when I first saw him. He wore a white shirt with beige pants and brown suspenders, a dark brown jacket, and 2-tone shoes, brown and white. I fell in love that night. I was also under conviction. The next night, I went to the altar and gave my heart to the Lord. I was really happy in my heart and wanted to be a true Christian. In 1942, Everett Hall was elected pastor of Hazel Park Free Will Baptist Church. My family attended the church. We saw many people come and be saved. Everett felt led to resign the church at Hazel Park. He came to Owensboro and held tent meetings and revivals all around Owensboro. April 6, 1946 was the happiest day of my life. Everett and I married at my sister Aretha's, with Harley and his wife Margaret standing up for us. In Owensboro, it wasn't long until we had a beautiful church building on 9th and Venable. We rented a house on Hathaway Street, next to the soybean mill. Ruth was born while we lived there in that house. We lived on James Davis Court when Johnny was born. In September of 1951, our family moved to east part of the county and lived in a log cabin near Fish and Game Lake. Naomi was born when we lived in that log cabin. Dad built another house on Biddle and Ellis Road, and while we lived there, our daughter Becky was born. We moved to a little store building that turned out to be full of mice. Dad desired to move out of there quickly, and we ended up on Carpenter's Lake, where our daughter Mary was born. We bought ground from Paul, that's Everett's father, and started building our home on Highway 662. We lived there with Everett's parents while we finished the house and moved in 3 days before Tim was born. In December of 1959, Paul entered our family. He was such a good baby, but when he was 6, it was time to go to school. He was just like Johnny. He didn't want to go and cried every morning. Johnny quit crying when he found a girlfriend, but not Paul. He never cared about girls. He just didn't want to stay at school. On June 16, 1974, we took Dad to Vanderbilt Hospital in Nashville. Johnny was there the night that he had his last heart attack. Everett never regained consciousness. Half of my heart went with him. He was the best. I'd like to tell you a story about a little girl. Dad, and this was before we married. Dad came by the house and asked me, he said, Nell, he said, I'm going down to the children's hospital. Would you like to go with me? And I said, oh, yes. So we went down there and we saw this little girl that had been burned all on one side. Her name was Sandra. And I'm telling you, she was about 5 years old. And she just laid there in the bed. She had bandages all over her. And she was laying there watching the other kids. Their families had come in and brought them some bears and dolls. And when I looked at Sandra, she didn't have any toys at all. So I had a Shirley Temple doll that my dad got me when I was 16 years old. And I thought, oh, I think come back and bring her that doll and give her that doll. So I asked Everett if he would go back the next day so I could take her the doll. And he said yes, he would. So we went back, and when I opened that box and showed her that doll, her eyes really lit up. And she was so happy, and I told her, I said, honey, this is a real Shirley Temple doll. And I said, I want you to take care of it now. And she said, oh, I will. And the other kids saw the doll, so they come running over there to see the Shirley Temple doll. And I also took her a dress and little panties and anklets and shoes and everything to dress her up, and they called her the Little Princess after we dressed her up in all that outfit. And I'm telling you, it really made my heart happy to see. You know, I never did miss that Shirley Temple doll anymore because I had given it to somebody that had made them happy. Jackie. I love Jackie as if she were my own daughter. With Mark, and Bobby Price Hayes. Your dad and I always prayed that all of you would do well, and that each of you would take Jesus as your very own. Please don't take it lightly. There's so many in heaven looking and waiting for you, and I'll be there too, waiting for you. Always remember, I love you more than you could ever know. This is your mom. Bye.